I got caught and there was no way I could explain it away, none at all. I had on a complete outfit, my makeup done and my hair set in barrettes to match my jewelry. The hem of the dress was above my knees about 3 inches, showing a lot of nylon-wrapped legs. The modestly cut neckline showed a hint of my cleavage and my earrings swung from my lobes like Christmas ornaments. I had the perfume in my hand, ready to spritz, when my brother walked in on me. Jeff is the eldest, he's 20. I'm 18. Where he's tall, well over 6 foot, and shorter, a mere 5 feet 7 inches. We both have blue eyes and sandy blonde hair. And you are. He knew perfectly well who I was, but his grin was friendly and I played along, saying, "Diane." "Well, I don't think you have time to change, Diane. Mom called and is bringing a friend home. She should be here any minute." Just then we both heard the door open, and Mom called out for us. "Up here, Mom. Can you come up?" Jeff called, not saying a word about how I was dressed, and gave no indication at all. I was shocked he would do that to me, and was just about to hide in the bathroom when Mom walked into the room and saw me. She looked at me for just a moment and said, "Well, at least you're presentable." No staring, no yelling, nothing. She told me her name is Diane, Mom. Mom looked at me again, smiled, that smile of hers, and said, "Mrs. Benson will be here shortly, for tea, so unless you want to join us, maybe you should leave." I reached for my purse as Jeff turned to leave, ready to go with him, and Mom said, "No. You stay, Diane. You look just fine, and this will give you a chance to act like the girl you appear to be." "But Mom." "No buts. You stay." Jeff looked at me with his gleeful grin, waved at me, said, "Have a nice time, Diane," and left. I always wondered, but I stood there, half afraid, half proud of how I looked, not sure what to say. "I need your help, Diane." At Mom's direction, she and I set a table, with her not saying a word about how I was dressed. We finished just as Mrs. Benson arrived. I was introduced as Diane, then she and Mom had tea while I sat there and kept my mouth shut unless one of them spoke to me. I kept my answers as short as possible. It was terrible having to sit there, trying to be as feminine as possible, and knowing that I would have to be very lucky to pull it off. Finally, she left, and I was able to relax a bit. Mom sat looking at me, that eagle eye of hers boring in, finding every flaw, and I know, wondering why I was dressed as a girl. I didn't even know why, I only knew that I had to do it. I think that went very well, don't you, Diane? If you say so, Mother, but why have me here at all? I could easily have stayed in my room and she never would have known. True, but then you never would have had the chance to have such a nice tea, would you? I could have missed it, Mother. Obviously my sarcasm escaped her, or worse, she was ignoring it. But why? You look so nice, and besides, I'm glad I finally met you. You knew? Then she went on to tell me she had known about my dressing up for years. I mean, really. Diane, you did your own laundry, but how many times did you miss a pair of panties or a bra, and leave them in the dryer? Or in the basket? You leave makeup stains on the sink, powder on the vanity, and your room occasionally smells of perfume. Just how dumb do you think I am? I had no answer for her because if she said it, she must be right, and it was hard to remember if I ever left any clothes behind. Now that I've seen you, I have to say that you look very nice. With just a little help, I doubt if anyone would recognize you. Once again I kept my mouth shut, afraid of what she might do. Your hair, for example, is okay, but something other than a ponytail would be better, and we could make your nails look better by making them a bit longer maybe. I can certainly help you with some of your mannerisms. She had hit every single one of the things that I knew I needed help with. It's still early, why don't we see what we can do with your hair? It sounded like a question, but it wasn't, and I followed her up to her bedroom, and sat at the vanity like she told me. Using a spritzer, she wet my hair down and began to put her pink rollers in my hair. When she had wound up every hair on my head, it seemed, she sprayed on a setting lotion and put me under her dryer. For a while, she said. I sat in her only other chair waiting for my hair to dry while Mom went to the drugstore. When she returned, she handed me a packet of fake nails. I'm sure you know how to put these on, so sit at the vanity and do that and I'll be back. Why are you doing this, Mom? She looked at me, then sat on the bed. I've known about your hobby for a long time but always thought it was just youthful curiosity. In my heart I guess I knew better, but I ignored the signs and never said anything, even when I found your things in the laundry. When I saw you today I was certainly shocked to see just how nice you looked. But Mrs. Benson is having a garden party the day after tomorrow, and since she invited both of us to be there, I thought it would give you a chance to get out of the house, let you interact with other girls your age, and women in general. You could get used to having longer nails, and look better at the same time. I had been out before, but nothing like this. Tomorrow you and I will go find a nice summer dress for you to wear, and maybe some new shoes as well, since you'll want to look your best both tomorrow and at the garden party. You and I will work together to see that you are a presentable young lady. Without another word she left the room. I looked at the nails, then sorted them out and started to attach them. I had only tried nails once before, and found a length that I liked. I trimmed these nails the same way, about a quarter-inch longer than my own nails, filed them to a rounded point, and used one of Mom's polishes that I found in one of the drawers. By the time Mom had returned, my nails had all been painted and I was waving my hands to dry them. I like that color on you. Then she started to take out the rollers and brush my hair out. It was a lot fuller with waves on the sides and curls down the back. As she brushed I saw how easy it was for her to create a very feminine hairstyle. When she said she was done I had a modified flip, with bangs swept to one side. My ears were exposed and yet it looked just right on me and I liked it. Isn't that better? I like it, Mother, thanks. When Jeff got home and saw me, his eyes locked on me, then he almost choked, which made Mom and I smile. Mom had helped me touch up my makeup, and I never looked better. Hot damn. Thank you, Jeff, I think. For a brother you're sure to make a very nice sister. That's when Mom told him I would be around for a few days. We have a few things to do tomorrow, and a garden party a day later. After that, we'll see. Then she gave him one of her looks and told him that he was not, under any circumstances, to give me away. Give her away? Hell, if she wasn't my brother I'd ask her out. Thanks, Jeff, that means a lot to me. Then I kissed him on the cheek, leaving a bright red lipstick print on his face. For the first time in years he blushed, and went to his room. You shouldn't tease him like that, Diane. He has a happy face on, but he doesn't understand why you do this either, and he's very worried about you. I never realized Jeff felt that way and instantly felt sorry for kissing him. I had been out of the house dressed as a girl once before, for a Halloween party 3 years ago, and twice on my own since then. When Mom came into my room the next morning and helped me get ready, I was more than a little nervous about going shopping with her, but, as I said, she usually got her way, and I was soon all made up just like the day before. I followed her to the car, but hesitated getting in, hoping for some kind of miracle, but she looked at me, and I got in the car. I simply cannot understand why you are so nervous, Diane. You look wonderful. On the outside, maybe, but on the inside I'm just as scared as I always was, Mom. You'll get over that quick enough. Mom drove, and I worried, but eventually we reached the mall, and I walked in, right beside my mother. I checked your clothes to see what size you wear, Diane, and since your shoulders are a bit wider than normal for a woman, you'll have to try on a few things for fit, and of course, you need something to make your hips rounder and fuller. Great, I thought to myself. Now all I have to do is admit I have no boobs, skinny hips, and then get naked in a store. It turned out it wasn't that bad. We went into the lingerie section and I bought another bra, and a gel-padded panty brief. Later, in the women's department, Mom selected a few dresses she liked, all of them tea-length and ugly as sin. I gathered up my nerve and managed to say no way, and she relented. Finally I found one I liked, and after I had it on she agreed with me, and we bought it. Maybe one more, and 2 skirts, just in case, Diane. I found a pleated navy skirt I liked, and Mom picked out one in pink that was straight cut. The other dress was a simple sheath in black. 3 blouses and 2 pair of shoes later we walked back to the car. This is a lot of clothes for just a garden party, mother. As her smile broadened, she told me, you and I both know that this has never been a one-time thing, so why not do it right? If you're going to dress like a girl, then you should at least have clothes that fit well and look tasteful. It was a logical assumption on her part, and in my heart, I knew she was right, again. We have just one more stop, Diane, and by the time we get home you'll feel a lot better about all of this. Mom's one more stop was at the salon she went to. I followed her in, and found out I had an appointment. Hi. I'm Jerry. Come with me, please. I sat in the chair not knowing what to expect, and after Jerry and I selected a style from her book, she washed my hair and started cutting. All she said she did was trim it, layering it so it would be easier for me to take care of and look better. No perm, no hair coloring, just a trim, but when she was done, my hair never looked better. Looking in the mirror, I saw what I could look like if I managed to master doing my own hair. Mom and I went home and I put away the clothes we had bought, then I put on the summer dress I had picked out. It was a knee-length shirtwaist style, sleeveless, with a round neck, all white. It had an orchid print on it, and had 2 sewn-in petticoats under the skirt. Looking in the mirror, I saw the way it fit me, fitted across the bust line to a tapered bodice. The red belt accented a trim waist, then flared out. The white heels looked great, and I decided to show Mom, and started to walk into the kitchen when the doorbell rang. Get that, will you, Diane? Through the glass I saw Gail, a friend of mine, standing there. She could plainly see me, and I looked over my shoulder and saw my mother standing there. Sooner or later everyone will find out anyway, Diane. You might as well open the door for her. I walked over, reached out, and twisted the knob. Is Greg here? Come in, Gail. My mother spoke over my shoulder and I backed up to let Gail in. This is Diane. I think maybe you two have met once before. Gail looked at me, a puzzled look on her face, and all at once she knew. I could see it in her eyes. Of course. Diane. How have you been? Okay, I guess. I'm having a party on Saturday night and stopped by to ask you to come over, and now that I see you, I insist that you come as you are. I can't do that, Gail. My mother asked me why not, which in my mind was a stupid question. Look at me. Yes, I know that, dear, but we are going to the garden party tomorrow, and Saturday is just one more day away. You look very nice and there is no reason for you to miss a perfectly nice party. I agree, Diane. Wear what you have on, it's perfect. Gail left, but not before she told me she expected me to be there at 5. Mother. Don't mother me, young lady. You had your hair done, your nails are fine, and you look very pretty. No more discussion about this, Diane. I bought those clothes so you could experience what being a woman was all about, and this is a way for you to be with kids your own age. But all of my friends will be there. Then everyone that counts will find out how pretty you are all at the same time, then won't they? It was hopeless, yet deep down, this is exactly what I had always wanted to do, go to some party dressed like a girl, and not on Halloween either. Of course I never would do it, it was just a dream. Right? Now that it was happening, I was just as scared as I knew I would be. Mom had told me straight out that she wanted me to have clothes that fit, that I could wear, and she even told me beforehand that this is what she expected. If I wanted to dress as a girl, then I should, but do it right, and not be afraid. I had even agreed and gone shopping with her. I had it all down pat, except for the fear part. Mom acted like she wasn't pushing me, but she was, and I didn't know why. I decided to watch some Mind Candy and flicked the television on. I was in my own mental space when Jeff came in with his girlfriend Kelly. She looked at me, and then him. Kelly, this is my sister Diane. But you don't have any sisters. She looked at me again and figured it out, just as I stood up. She was cool about it though. Hi Diane, Jeff said as Kelly's eyes looked at me from head to toe and back, then said, You're very pretty, Diane, and I'm certainly glad you're Jeff's sister. Nobody had seen me at the mall, or recognized me as a male all day. I'm home for just a few hours and my secret was out to more people than ever before. I was safer at the mall. Thanks, Kelly. Jeff slipped his hand around hers and asked me if I was going to Gail's party. Right then, for some reason, I knew I would, and nodded my head yes. Got a date yet, Diane? No. Of course not. This will work out perfect, Jeff. What will work out perfect? You need a date for the party, and my brother Ken is home from college. But I don't want I can't go out with what if he finds out? I'll be lucky just to get home in one piece. Not because of who you are, Diane, but because he'll be all over you. He's hot and horny, just like most guys are. Kelly was smiling and I tried to ignore her. I'll be there too, Diane, and there's no sense in being so shy. We already told him we had a date for him to take to the party, and it's you. Besides, Kelly added, I hear he's a good kisser. Great. Thanks a lot. You're very welcome, Diane. They went in to see Mom, also totally ignoring my sarcasm, also to tell her the good news too, I'll bet. I had just wanted to dress up once in a while, and now, all at once, it had mushroomed into this. I was going to a garden party in just a few hours, and on Saturday I had a date, which my own brother fixed me up with. What a mess! The night before I had wondered how I was going to pull all of this off at the garden party, instinctively knowing that I had to be as perfect as I could be, every time, or become a clown and an object of derision. That was why this morning I had stripped naked and used a cream hair remover to take off all of my body hair, and shaved as close as possible. Mom set my hair in rollers for me, and as I looked in the mirror, I knew that the dress and makeup was the least of the problem. Mannerisms, walk, and speech were the biggest hurdles. All I could do was be careful and do the best I could. I used light pastel colors on my eyes, outlining them in black, and used a coral blusher. Mom had given me a waist nipper, and I wrapped it around myself and fastened the hooks in the front, feeling it pull my waist smaller, then even more as I pulled the zipper closed. Pink cotton panties, the padded panty brief, pantyhose, and of course the bra. Last night I made up a pair of breast forms using birdseed and nylons, and slipped them into the bra. The dress went over my head and zipped up easily. I stepped into the white strappy heels and secured the ankle strap and added the light rose lipstick. Mom came in and took the rollers out, then I brushed my own hair out with her watching. She gave me some button pearl earrings with a matching choker necklace, and handed me a bottle of perfume. I had been in the family room waiting to leave when Jeff and Kelly walked in. Mom told me it was time to leave, and I picked up the white purse and followed her out to the car. I don't understand why you and Jeff are doing this to me, Mother. Sure, I like to dress as a girl once in a while, but this is getting really crazy. First, a garden party that I could have avoided, then a party at Gail's, and now a date. The tension in my voice must have told her I was serious, and wanted an answer, so she gave it to me. Working in the hospital, once in a while I see men that like to dress as women, and overcome with so much frustration and pain they mutilate themselves, drink too much, overdose on drugs, or try some other way to hurt themselves. I talked to the staff psychologist, and she told me that men that dress as women are quite common, but rarely talked about, and those that hurt themselves have never found someone, or some way, to express themselves. I saw Mom look at me with a tear in her eye. You will never be without a way to express this portion of yourself, Diane, never. By insisting that you come today, and go to Gail's party dressed, you will gain the confidence of spirit and know without any doubt that you can, and do, become a pretty girl. Regardless of what anyone says, being able to look like a woman is a major part of you. Besides, I've been watching you all day, and I know in my heart that you really like being taken for a girl. Don't you? She had me there. I did like it. But a date? I had nothing to do with that, Diane. Jeff must have known, or sensed, that you would do it, and set it up. If Kelly's brother doesn't know, don't tell him. Just be Diane for the day, relax and enjoy it. That was easy for her to say, but was going to be very hard for me to do. There were maybe 4 girls that I had gone to school with at the garden party, and none of them recognized me. I was introduced around, and I managed to speak softly, sounding a bit like Kathleen Turner, but, unfortunately, I wasn't near as sexy looking as she is. A bunch of little old ladies chatted at the tables and I tried to stay close to Mom. I was at the buffet table when a classmate of mine came over. "Hi. I'm Jennifer Logan. I haven't seen you here before, have I?" "No, I'm new here, my name is Diane Grant." She motioned to an empty table and ended up joining her simply because I couldn't see an easy way out. "I know a guy named David Grant, are you related?" No matter what I said, I would have to live with it, and keeping up a fat lie would be hard. I wanted to say I was my own cousin or something equally clever, but my mother's words still bounced around in my head. Regardless of what happens, always be yourself and it'll be fine. Jennifer was beautiful, with long blonde hair, an elfin face with huge blue eyes and a knockout body. She had always been one of the most popular girls in school, and I knew I was going to tell her the truth. I had to, for myself. "I'm David, or I used to be. I made a few changes lately." My words lay there between us, like a grenade that had not yet gone off, destroying me. "I'll be damned. You're gorgeous. You're not mad at me, I hope. Not because you dress like this, Diane, maybe because I'll have to work harder to get a boyfriend with you around, but not because of this." I touched her hand in thanks, and she covered it with her own. "Did Gail invite you to her party?" I nodded my head yes, and she asked me if I was going as Diane. "I think I have to, Jenny, for myself, and maybe my friends as well. You can count on me for support, Diane, and if you need anything at all, just call me." "I will. Thanks, Jenny." Heather, one of the other girls, came up and sat down. "Heather, this is Diane. She's new around here." "Hi." Heather was afraid that any girl her boyfriend looked at would be after him, and she was always tense around anyone that she viewed as a threat. It wasn't remotely true, but she was always paranoid, so I ignored her icy hello. When Mom and I left for home, I was a lot more relaxed, which she noticed. "Feel better?" I told Jennifer. She gave me a startled look, and I told her why. Saying I was my own cousin would be hard to maintain, what with David disappearing and me showing up. Sooner or later someone would find out and it would be worse. I told her, and she simply accepted me. She told me to call her if I needed anything. Mom said nothing for the rest of the way home. I changed into a skirt and blouse and tossed the dress into the laundry. Having a close girlfriend is part of being a woman, Diane. Mom had walked into the laundry room and I never heard her coming. "You and Jennifer can share secrets, like you have now, and maybe later, more. Maybe Gail as well." I was helping Mom make dinner, one of my new chores, when Gail and Jennifer came by. "Hi, Mrs. Grant, can we borrow Diane for a minute?" She said yes, and we walked out on the patio. "We don't think you know how pretty you are, Diane. The three of us have been together since we started school, and we never knew about any of this. Why didn't you tell us?" "Right. Like I would just walk up and say, 'By the way, Jenny, I have a dress just like the one you have on, and I simply love it.' I would have been a leper in school and you know it. This way, school is over and I can do what I want." "True," said Gail, "but now that you have decided to come out, so to speak, we think it's time you joined our little club. We talked it over, Diane, and you are now a member, and tomorrow night we are celebrating." "How?" "The three of us are going out clubbing, and that means fancy, hot, and sexy dresses." "But I don't have any." "I mean, I can't wear something very hot, I can't, no low-cut stuff. We thought of that, and we found the answer. I'll be over in the morning about 10, Diane. Get ready for the surprise of your life." "Okay, Gail, whatever you say." In the morning, dressed in my shorts and a loose blouse, I took the dress out of the dryer and was ironing it when Gail showed up, a big bag in her arms. "Ready?" "In a minute, Gail, let me finish this." I hung the dress up, and we went to my room, Mom joining us when we walked by her room. Mom knew that I liked Gail a lot, and the two of us alone in my bedroom, no matter how I was dressed, wasn't in any of her planning. Gail opened the bag and set two perfectly formed breast forms on the bed. These were my grandmother's. Mom got them when she died and they've been in the basement ever since. I picked one up and it felt like the real thing, soft, pliable, and the tone was a close match to my own skin. They glue on, and will stay put for a long time. Mom said they conduct body heat, and after you have them on for a while, you'll sense it when someone touches them. Not likely, Gail. We'll see, she said. I stripped off my blouse and bra while Mom read the instruction sheet, then, under Mom's direction, they were attached to my chest. They'll give you a small B-cup, Diane. Mom finished making sure the seams were down tight on my skin, and when I turned to see them in the mirror I almost fainted. Right there in front of me were breasts that looked as if I had grown them myself. I hefted them in my hands and could not help but smile. I think she likes them. It certainly looks that way, Gail. Mom left, and I put my bra on, struggling with the hooks until Gail showed me the easy way. Fasten it in front and spin it around, Diane. I did, and she was right, it was easier. Now we find you a hot, sexy dress for tonight. With the way I looked now, how could I refuse? I thought we would go shopping, but we went to Jennifer's house instead, where she was waiting for us. Her mother, seeing two girls, said nothing when we all went up to her bedroom. On the back of the closet hung 4 very pretty dresses. Jennifer was the least shy of all of us and quickly stripped to her panties, leaving me gasping at the sight of her almost naked body. Might as well get used to it, Diane. Take your skirt and blouse off. Gail waited until I was also in my bra and panties and handed me the dark green dress, then she stripped. Being in a room with these two girls, both virtually naked, was making my own presentation of Diane very suspect, and I quickly pulled the dress on to help hide my very unfeminine deficiencies. Jenny zipped it up and was pleased to see that it fit me. That belonged to my sister, and you look as good in it as she did, Diane. Thanks. She handed me the jewelry to go with the dress, then I took it off and put my own clothes back on. On the way home, Gail said, Jenny was showing off for you, Diane. You too, Gail. Of course I was. Admit it, you've wanted to see my boobs since I first had them, right? Of course I did. Now she admitted that she had always known it. Now you have, and I want to know if you liked them. Well, they're nice, of course, not as nice as mine, but nice, for a skinny girl. That earned me a smack on the shoulder, and a grin. She veered off to her house and I went home. Going out? They voted me in as a member of their club and told me we're going out to celebrate. Jenny loaned me a dress. I held it out and Mom whistled. That will certainly draw the men. I hope so, I said, trying to get her goat a little, but all she did was tell me to make sure he used protection. Mom won. Diane 0, again. I had almost 3 hours, so I went in and stripped, checking my entire body for stray hair, using a razor to get the few odd hairs I found. The gel pads in the panty brief slipped out, and after I changed panties I slipped them between my panties and skin, then put the pantyhose on. It gave me a more natural look, especially when I pulled on a stretchy panty brief. I washed off my makeup and carefully looked at the breast forms. The seams could be seen up close, so I used a bit of cover stick to hide them, using powder to mat the cream and not stain the dress. I slipped on a robe and went to the kitchen to get a soft drink and found Mom and Mrs. Wales, Gail's mother, sitting there. Hello, Diane, nice to see you again. Nice to see you, ma'am. Sit down a minute, Diane. Mom pointed at the chair, and I sat. When Gail told me, I couldn't believe it, and had to see you for myself. Now that I have, I'm stunned. You're gorgeous. Thank you. Gail loves you, you know that, don't you? I didn't. All I knew was that I loved her, maybe more than I wanted to admit, even to Gail. I remained silent, preferring to see what else she had to say. Well, she does, and that presents a problem, for all of us. Dressed as you are, and looking like you do, Gail will invariably not think anything about undressing in front of you, and that might lead to something else. My mind's eye went back to Gail undressing at Jennifer's house, her firm lush body, and my instant erection. I wanted to deny that it would happen, but it already had. You and Gail have known each other since you were children, and now that you're both all grown up, we're concerned. You look as nice as any of her other girlfriends, and they swap clothes and so on all of the time, which makes me think that you will do the same. Human nature being what it is, we don't want any accidents. Understand what I mean, Diane? I nodded my head yes and sat silently as Mrs. Wales looked at me. Are you in love with Gail? Yes. I thought so. Can you promise me that nothing will happen between you two? I thought back to when I saw her almost naked and felt an erection beginning and wanted to say yes, but no was the right answer, so I told her no. That's what Gail said. You two can do all of the things girls do, Diane, except you are not allowed into her room alone. Okay? Yes, ma'am. She smiled and patted my hand and left. Mom didn't say a word. We went out that night, all of us getting hit on so many times I felt like a drum, but we all went home alone. Gail and I talked about what had happened that day. So you love me, huh? Why didn't you tell me, Diane? Nobody likes to be turned down, Gail, and you and Steve were an item for a long time. We sat in front of my house talking, and all at once she slipped her hand under my dress, reaching me. I was as hard as a rock. Not very ladylike, Diane. I know, but that's how you affect me. I kissed her gently on the lips and went in. Naked, I went in the bath and took care of a very pressing need. In the morning after breakfast, Mom told me she had an idea that might make it easier for me to be around Gail and other girls when they changed clothes. After you left yesterday, I thought about it and bought a few things. Let's go in your room and see if we can make this work. I had no idea what she meant, but followed her to my room. Take your clothes off, including your panties, Diane. It was a strange request, and I was a bit shy about it, but did as she asked. Now lay on the bed, dear, your legs spread as far apart as you can. I did that and found it was very uncomfortable and moved the bookcases over. My heels rested on shelves, my maleness wide open to her. All at once I felt the cold icy bag as Mom pushed it against me. I shouted and wanted to jump up and move away, but Mom had her hand on my chest and told me to stay still. This is medical adhesive, the type they use in surgery. I'm going to manipulate you a bit and see what we can do. I felt her hand on me as she pushed, held, then glued. My penis was pushed up inside of me as were my testicles, and the skin from my sack folded and glued in place. When Mom was done, she gave me a mirror, and still on my back, I looked. She had created what looked like a normal, healthy vagina, complete with labial folds. The doctor said that you might experience some initial discomfort, but that will go away in an hour or so, and the best part is that you cannot get an erection. The blood flow has been slowed by pushing it up inside of you, which restricts erection, and the adhesive will hold everything in place for at least a month. I didn't know what to say. I'll call Betty and tell her so you and Gail can share all of the things girls do. She emphasized the word girls. When I got dressed for the party, it was easy to see that my panties now showed the cleft of my new sex. I did my makeup and hair, then wore the white dress and heels as I left the house for the short drive to Gail's house. In the vernacular, I had boobs and a snatch, and that made me not only look like a female now, I also felt like one. I was no longer afraid of being discovered. My new vagina was my protection in a big way. Anyone that saw me would think female right away, and I smiled at the thought of it. The only downside was that Gail and I would have to find other ways to express our love for one another, if we ever did. As soon as she found out I looked just like she does, it might be over before it even began. I had a swimsuit in a bag with a towel, just like I was told. My date and I were introduced. Ken was as tall as Jeff, but twice as wide. His hair had been cut very short, but was still curly and a deep black, and standing next to him, I looked like an exclamation point. He was very attentive, and when the music started we danced. Most of the kids there did not recognize me, which was just fine with me. Heather hung on Greg all afternoon, while Jenny and her date sat in the shade rubbing each other's legs. Gail had invited Steve, her old flame, and they were dancing. Time for a swim, everyone. Let's change. The girls, including me, filed into Gail's room, suits in hand. It was a rush of clothes and naked bodies as we all undressed. I saw Gail watching me as I slipped my panties down and slowly turned to face her. Her eyes got wider as she looked at me. I waited a moment before I pulled on my suit, not saying a word. Later, alone at one end of the pool, she and I talked. Mom told me that your mother had fixed it so that we had no restrictions anymore. I wondered why, and now I know. Moms say that I can't do anything, Gail. No more erections. I'm like you now. Is this what you want, Diane? I always loved you, Gail, always. But I also loved being Diane, now. We can be sisters then. I hugged her and tears flowed, until I felt a hand on my leg. It was Ken. His hand went up my leg almost all of the way, making me shiver. I think sisters will be better for us, Diane. Then Gail swam away as Ken surged out of the water, and kissed me. You have very nice legs, Diane. Soft and smooth, long and sexy. The rest is pretty sexy too. I pushed him back in the water, but he grabbed my ankle and down I went, right into his arms where he held me as he kissed me underwater. Later, as we changed back into our clothes, one of the other girls told me she had heard I was actually David, dressed as a girl, but looking at you naked, that couldn't be true at all. They all laughed and went on getting dressed. Most of us, rather than dry our hair, pulled it into ponytails and redid our makeup before we rejoined the guys. Ken was right at my side for the rest of the day. He was solid, tall, and good-looking, and I had him. Gail and Steve had drifted off when Ken asked me if I wanted to take a drive. Let me go home a change, Ken. Come over in an hour. I said goodbye, and went home. I quickly changed into a pair of short shorts and a top, dried my hair and once again checked my makeup. Ken was right on time, and we drove around for a while before he drove into Murphy Park, stopping on the point overlooking the lake. Kelly said you were beautiful, Diane, but they always say that about blind dates, so I was surprised to see they were right. You are beautiful. His arm pulled me closer, and as his lips touched mine, I knew I had to, confirm my own sexuality. I was a woman or I was not. I folded into him and let his hand slide up my leg until it rested high on my leg, near my sex. He was unable to hide his hardness, and wanted me to touch him. His hand found my breast, and began stroking me. All at once the seat went back and I was on my back. He kissed me and I did not fight him. His tongue found mine and he moved again to get comfortable. I turned, and saw his hardness tenting his pants. He was stroking me, and I felt myself getting hotter. All at once I knew that I could not do it. I sat up, pulling my bra back in place and straightened my clothes up. He was grinning at me, then he kissed me again, but I told him to take me home. I now knew what I was. I was a woman, and I felt no shame about it. If anything, I wanted to do it again, but on my first try at being a woman, with a man, I had succeeded. At first, I thought I had been caught by Jeff, but now I wonder if my mind had set it up. I knew he might come home then, and ignored it. Did I want to get caught? Did I really have tea with Mrs. Benson against my will? Or go to the garden party? I could have said no and made an issue of it, I guess, but I never did, and now I live as a female full-time. I'm going to start taking hormones soon, but while I wait for them to do the magic, I will do whatever I can to make Ken happy. No, I guess I wasn't caught trying to be a woman. I leaped up and announced it.